It's been almost 3 months since we moved our savings from our American Express high yield savings account to our new CIT Bank Savings Connect high yield savings account. And if you are considering making similar moves, well, you'll first want to listen to this to hear what I have to say about CIT. Some good and some not so good. Let's start with the basics. The main reason why we moved from American Express to CIT was mainly for the higher yield. American Express was a great company to have our savings with. The interest rates that American Express would offer were somewhat competitive, but CIT and several other banks seem to always offer higher rates, and that's the main reason why we moved to CIT Bank away from American Express. It's important to know that CIT Bank is FDIC insured. CIT is a division of First Citizens Bank and Trust Company, which is a member of the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, which means your deposit accounts like that high yield savings account is insured up to $250,000. So basically the same way that your money is insured where you do your personal checking and where you may have your current savings account with is at that big name bank, the same thing, the same rules apply to that money that's in your high yield savings account at CIT Bank. The current APY for that high yield savings account at CIT Bank is 4.05% as of early March 2023. And depending on when you watch this, it may be higher, it may be lower. That's just the nature of high yield savings accounts in general. But I have been watching CIT Bank for a couple years and they've consistently maintained one of the higher APYs out there. I hear about other banks, other companies that will offer a pretty competitive, maybe one of the highest APYs one day, and then a couple weeks later, or a couple months later, or a year later, they'll completely drastically drop that APY much lower than what most other high yield savings accounts are offering. And so CIT Bank has not been this kind of company from my experience for the last couple of years. For the last year, I would say especially, I have noticed them stay pretty competitive and stay at the top of many other high yield savings accounts being offered out there. I do think this is an important part of this review that many of you should pay attention to. Initially, when I opened that high yield savings account at CIT Bank, I was a bit unsure about how long deposits would take to show in my account. Something that I was used to whenever I would log into my American Express high yield savings account online, I could submit a transfer on their site, on the Amex site, and typically that transfer from my personal checking account into the American Express high yield savings account would take 2 days, at the most 2 days. However, the initial deposit at CIT Bank took a little bit longer, took a full 5 business days. So let's say you create your account, connect your personal checking account that you're going to be funding that high yield savings account with, and then you transfer that initial minimum deposit of $100. That's the only requirement for this CIT Bank's high yield savings account. After that, you don't have to maintain any minimum deposits or you don't have to transfer a minimum amount into your account. But that initial deposit that we did took a full 5 business days. So if I initiated the transfer of that money on a Wednesday, the money would not show available to me until maybe Tuesday or Wednesday of the next week. But pay attention because I'm going to tell you exactly what I found out, the way to be able to transfer money from my personal checking to my CIT Bank HYSA and have that money show up available to me within 2 days. I've done this twice and it worked both times. Now back to that initial deposit, I did reach out to CIT Bank to ask them what was going on, why was it taking so long? And their response was for all transactions where CIT Bank is the originator of an automated clearinghouse transaction, ACH transaction, we may hold the funds for 5 full business days. Check deposits may be held for 7 full business days. Interest earnings begin on the day your deposit is posted. Now that delay with that initial deposit really didn't bother me too much because I did realize that I would be getting a higher APY with CIT versus American Express. So if you are someone who wants to open a high yield savings account and get that high APY at CIT Bank, but you're afraid about the delay in moving money in and out, let me tell you exactly what I did and what I found out that you can do so that you don't have to wait a week or so with other deposits that you're going to be doing with CIT Bank. So basically, you're just going to initiate the ACH transfers at the bank that you're going to be funding the CIT Bank high yield savings account with. So whatever bank that you have your personal checking with that you're going to be using to fund your HYSA at CIT, you basically have to log in online and set up CIT Bank, which is actually First Citizens Bank. CIT is actually an independent subsidiary of First Citizens Bank, but that's going to be the bank that you are going to establish that ACH connection with. So if you bank with Wells Fargo, Bank of America, or Chase, you're going to log into your account and establish First Citizens Bank as the account that you're going to connect with to do ACH transfers. And so you're going to need your account number, your routing number. And if your experience is going to be like mine, where your bank is going to do a couple of micro deposits at CIT Bank's side, and you're going to log into your CIT Bank after a couple of days, verify those micro deposits back with your personal checking account. And once you do that, you should be able to transfer money from your personal checking, do that ACH transfer over to CIT Bank's high yield savings account, and you will see the money within a day or two. The first time I did this, I initiated that ACH transfer early in the morning from my personal bank that I do my checking with, and the money showed up in my CIT Bank high yield savings account the next day in the evening. And the second time I initiated that transfer from my personal bank that I do my checking with, the money showed up at the CIT Bank high yield savings account within 48 hours. Now, after you've established an account, one thing you'll notice is that there is an available balance and a current balance. And the way CIT explains this is your available balance is the amount of funds available to you for withdrawal or transfer. This balance is equal to the current balance minus any funds being held in reserve until transactions clear. This balance does not include additional funds that may be used to cover an overdraft. And CIT defines that current balance as today's starting balance plus or minus any current day transactions that have not yet completed or cleared. And one question that I had is how interest earnings work with those two different balances. And CIT was very responsive, saying interest earnings begin when the funds are received. Therefore, when your deposit of X amount of dollars was received, it has started to accrue interest in your overall balance, current balance, although the funds are not available yet, meaning it's not in that available balance yet. As I mentioned before, CIT Bank does require a $100 minimum initial deposit to open that high yield savings account, but there are no monthly fees, which is great. And if you end up opening a checking account, you can actually transfer money via Zelle, which I have not tried with them yet because I haven't opened up a checking account with them. We still do our checking with the bank that I've been with for the last 13, 14 years. It's just a convenient brick and mortar bank that I still kind of personally like to do my checking with. But I am intrigued with CIT Bank's offer of 0.25% yield on checking balances with a minimum balance of $25,000 and 0.10% on balances under $25,000. So I don't get as high yields in my personal checking account right now that I see being offered at CIT Bank. And so that is interesting to me to look into in the future. As far as customer service, I will be honest, it wasn't a great experience when I tried to call somebody. I do think in the wave of all these different banks and companies offering these higher yields on these savings accounts, they are being bombarded with so many different requests and calls that I think I just got caught in one of those times where customer service was just swamped. After about 15 minutes or so, I did hang up. I didn't wait to be able to talk to somebody, but I did reach out to their customer service via the messages feature that is available to you when you log into your account online. And I will say the two different times that I tried this out, I did receive a response from them within 24 hours, which to me is great because getting an email or getting some kind of response from a company sometimes can take a long time. But the fact that I was able to get this within 24 hours was really cool. Now, I am someone who uses my phone quite a bit. And what I will say is that CIT Bank does offer an app. It is very easy to use and does exactly what I need it to do. No real fancy bells and whistles, but I can transfer money in and out of the account from the app if I ever needed to do the transfer from CIT Bank side. But remember, transferring money could take some time if you initiate that transfer from CIT side, but it's still good to know that I do have different options to handle my money, especially using the app. So who is CIT's high yield savings account for? Well, anyone who can open an account with a minimum balance of $100 and wants to benefit from having a high yield savings account with competitive yields that won't drastically change after you sign up. I've read accounts, I've seen other banks do this. I personally posted on my community tab a company that was offering 5% and then just within a couple of weeks dropped down to about 4.35%. And I'm not going to name that bank. You can go and see the screenshot that I posted on my community tab. But CIT Bank has not been this type of institution to do something like that, at least from my perspective, from my experience. And so I really hope CIT does continue to stay competitive with their yields because they offer other interesting products like CDs, home loans, and financing for businesses, all as a part of First Citizens Bank. If you're interested in signing up with CIT for their high yield savings account, I will have a link in the description as well as pinned in the comment section. It is an affiliate link, so if you do use that link, just know that you are helping out this channel. I will say, before you open a high yield savings account, you definitely want to check out the video on the screen for what you need to know before you open a high yield savings account, no matter where it is. I'll see y'all in that video. Peace.